One night, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael ben Eliezer, the founder of the Hasidic movement, one night the Baal Shem Tov had a dream. As so many of his dreams were, it was a pretty intense dream. The Baal Shem Tov dreamt that he went out of his house and he saw there a tree that was shaped exactly like a shofar. And as he looked at this tree, he couldn't believe the sight, this shofar-shaped tree. And then in his dream, one by one, all of his Hasidim, his closest disciples, they came and they went to the part of the tree that looked like a mouthpiece and they tried to blow a note, but nobody could get a note out of the shofar-shaped tree. And one by one they came and they tried in his dream to get a note and they couldn't. And then finally, Reb Wolf Kitzus came, and Reb Wolf Kitzus blew into that tree, and the sound that came out of the other end of that shofar-shaped tree pierced the heavens. Its cry was so intense and so beautiful and so piercing that when the Baal Shem Tov woke up from his dream, it was still vibrating around his being. And as he woke up, he knew that Rosh HaShanah, Reb Wolf Kitzus was to be the one who was to blow the shofar. And so he went to him that morning and he said, Reb Wolf, I had a dream. And he told him about the dream and he said, I want to study shofar with you. And they spent almost a whole year studying every single day, the notes of the shofar. And the Baal Shem Tov taught him that according to the Arizal, the great Kabbalist of the 16th century, every single one of the notes had a special meaning and a special kavanah, a special intention that would go with each of the notes. And that collectively, those 100 notes that we blow of the shofar would open all of the gates of heaven. And they studied every day intensely. And Reb Wolf Kitzus took notes, intense notes about every single note of the shofar. And every day he would prepare himself to learn some new secret, some new dimension of the mystical meanings of the shofar. And then the first morning of Rosh HaShanah came. And as it came to the shofar service, the piece of the service that we would have just been doing now, Reb Wolf Kitzus was trembling with the awesomeness of the task ahead of him. And he approached the bimah with his shofar. He put his talit over his head. He reached for his pocket where he had all of his notes for all of the intentions for each one of the blasts of the shofar. And he couldn't find it. He looked in all of his pockets and it wasn't there. And he was devastated. He was humiliated. He was mortified. And his heart broke. And he burst into tears. And with his talit over his head, he responded to the call, Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah. He responded and he blew. And when the service finished that morning, he was so humiliated he wanted to just walk away in shame. But the Baal Shem Tov, his teacher, his master, caught him and said, let me tell you something, Reb Wolf. Those notes we studied together, every single one of them is like a key that opens a lock to a door of a chamber in heaven. But you know what? There's a master key. There's one key that will blast open all of those doors at once. And that is a broken heart. When your heart broke today, Reb Wolf, when your heart broke today and you took your shofar and you blew those notes, I promise you, you blasted open every single lock of every single door to every single chamber of heaven. Your notes pierced through it all. The power of a broken heart and the way that relates to the shofar that we're going to be hearing either virtually or live pretty soon. Such a deep power, such an intense power. The Kotzker Rebbe, a later generation of Hasidic teachers, said, Ein davar shalem kalev nishba, that there is nothing as whole as a broken heart. Nothing as whole as a broken heart. So much of our Rosh HaShanah and our Yom Kippur this year is going to be coming from a place of brokenness because we feel so broken. We're not together. We feel the effects of this pandemic. We feel the climate of this country in all ways possible breaking. Whether it's the actual climate, the fact that we had the hottest August on record in Colorado, the catastrophic floods and fires and hurricanes, the climate politically and the ways in which families have stopped being able to talk to each other because of the brokenness, the breakdown in communication. All of these ways that we are broken, we can resign to them and feel mortified by them as Rev Wolf Kitsis did, or we can recognize that that brokenness is actually the source of such deep prayer and such deep longing. I learned this year from my teacher, Art Green, that shofar is sound beyond sound and language beyond language. I would add to that prayer beyond prayer. The sound of the shofar has such an intensity to it. When we blow it with kavanah, we blast it all open. We blast it all open. We bring our rawness and our vulnerability and our brokenness to the sounds of the shofar. The world's broken in so many ways. Last Rosh HaShanah, I set us a challenge when I spoke about trees of planting 5,780 trees for the year 5780. When I checked right before Erev Rosh Hashanah, we as a community have planted 6,127 trees, surpassing our goal, which is amazing. And to me, it reminds me of the saying by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who was the great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, who says, Im ata ma'amin sheyicholim lekalkel, ta'amin sheyicholim letakein. He says, if you really believe that you can break something, then believe that you can fix it. So as our hearts break, as the shofar sounds break us even more open, when we hear the shofar, may we recognize that all of the ways in which we see brokenness and discord and suffering in the world, may we just bring into our own hearts the possibility that we have the power of tikkun. We have the power to heal and to mend and to fix those places that are broken in our world.